Hi guys, and welcome to a special edition of today's task. For today's task, we are prepping to cut these windows out. If you've never heard of an egress window, your mind is going to be blown on today's task. What they do is they take out these old 18 by 30 shallow windows, and we're gonna cut these over and down to a 48 by 48 egress window, and we have 5 of them to install. Although this task is going to open up the basement, it has to start on the outside of the house, right out here. A lot's gonna happen in order to accomplish this. We have to eliminate all of these bushes and get to those windows behind there. We also have to access these windows and those windows, and then there's 2 more on the other side. And by access those windows, I mean we're going to dig those windows up. To accomplish the digging, I have rented this small mini track hoe, and somebody in the comments of another video said, Joel, how has your new truck helped with these tasks? Well, I'll tell you right now, this is how it is. You cannot take this tractor off their premises without a 3/4 ton or bigger truck, or a 2 5/16 ball, which I have both. But even then, my truck is still squatting right now. That is a very heavy trailer and tractor combination. But the alternative is hand digging. So if you're debating on the idea of a tractor, just think about this. It costs $300 to have it for 8 hours. I can't physically dig 5 window wells in 8 hours. I could dig those window wells for free on my own labor, but my back will be shot, and I have all of the room and access to use a tractor, so that's what I'm gonna use, and I recommend that for yourself. If you're gonna have a contractor come do these egress windows, I would see if they can do the digging as well, because it is back-breaking labor. There's a caveat. Sometimes the windows don't allow you to have access or room for a tractor, so the only option is to hand dig it. I've done that too, and you will feel very accomplished at the end of the task, and if you do, congratulations. Take pictures, show me, let me see what you're doing. But for today, we're gonna use this big guy. All right, we've got our tractor in motion and ready to start digging, but there's a few things I want to show you guys that you need to be very aware of. A couple of safety items to go over. First of all, you need to call Blue Stake before you dig anywhere on your property, especially if you're going to be digging with heavy machinery where you're not going to know what you're hitting until you've hit it. So I called Blue Stake. They told me that my water runs right through here. My gas runs right back there, and it's not in the way of any of my windows. The one thing I have to keep aware of is I have power running above my head right where I'm going to be digging. That is a lot of volts coming into this house at this moment, and those are live power lines, so I do not want to bump those at any cost. 1, because I don't want the injury, and 2, I don't want to pay for the repair. When you damage any of these kind of lines, whether it's water, whether it's gas, whether it's power, you still have to call and have those repaired. And when they come out to repair it like that, it's an emergency repair, and they charge you a fortune. So remember, it's free to have Blue Stake come out and check for your water, gas, and power. And hopefully, you'll have safe digging the whole time. You guys, today we are continuing the original task we started of prepping for our egress windows, and for today's task we are actually cutting the egress windows in. This hydraulic unit you see behind me, huge generator, huge tank of hydraulic fluid is powering all the saws. Now, for this task, I know that I am not capable of doing what I need done for these egress windows, but I do know that most of the time you can hire out somebody to come cut these windows. And if you're willing to help, they kind of cut you a little bit of a deal. But if not, you need to be present when they come cut this stuff, because there's little things you can take care of. Like for instance, you can help take care of the water, because water is going to get everywhere. And since we are able to cut on the inside of the house, I've had to vacuum up tons and tons of water.
How come like water is coming out when he cuts the brick?
That's a great question, Code. So the reason they cut with water is to eliminate the dust. If you don't cut with dust, 1, the blade will get super hot, so it helps keep the blade cool, and 2, it keeps the dust down. We don't have to wear face masks because of the water is absorbing the dust, and it's really just putting it on the ground as kind of a dirty slurry. And so that's what you, as the homeowner, can help clean up. Because you're not qualified, I'm not qualified to cut these windows, but whoever you hire is, and they will want your help. And I have been helping my guy the entire time. So yesterday we had to make a series of cuts, one on the top, one on the bottom, and each side, and we have 5 windows with 4 cuts each. That's 20 cuts. It took us all day. It takes a couple hours to prep, which whoever you've hired will do all the prep work for that. But then it takes a long time to just keep the saw going and moving and water cleanup and hydraulic usage and everything. So we were here all day yesterday. Now we are using a special saw. If you look on this corner, the big saw can only get to here and then can only get to here. It can't connect the two without having a huge overcut. So he has a special saw that he can put through. It's called a circle saw, and it'll connect those joints, and so it makes it nice, clean cut. On older projects that I've seen cut like this, they have to cut a long way past, and so you have these big lines that just kind of, if you're gonna cover it all, it doesn't really matter, but where these are gonna be on the outside of the house, we want as clean of lines as possible. So now using that different saw, we can get perfect corners every time. So it looks real clean. Windows are completely cut. This one is barely sitting in here. It's actually coming off a little bit, and we are ready to start knocking these guys out. This is the ultimate moment of truth and the best part of the whole day. So cool. Okay, we are doing a continuation of the egress windows. We have got them cut, the cement is out, and we are doing the next step. The next step is you have to support this concrete. Now that it's sitting here, it's obviously not gonna collapse immediately, but in the event that something's maybe happening or whatnot, we have definitely weakened the integrity of this concrete, so we have to put something structurally there, and especially on this side where the joists are sitting on that. They're only sitting on about 4-inch pad of concrete. That isn't quite structurally sound anymore, so we are gonna be putting a lentil in. And these lentils are steel structure that we bolt to this wall, and then it holds it. And that is just enough. That's 3 by 3 by quarter, and it'll definitely do the trick for holding that cement up. And I remember when I used to work at a steel fabrication shop making lentils for everything. We made them all the time for all kinds of businesses. We were always shipping them out, and it's kind of cool to be making them myself. So I'll show you how I make them. First, we need to take a measurement, and my guy cut out this side a lot so that the lentil can sit up in there. So I'm measuring 4 inches past, which puts me at 56 inches total. Here's our lentil steel, and I'm using my trusty dusty workbench, a garbage can, and I cut 2 slits in it because it just works easy. So I pick a side, and that's the side I'm gonna use, but I need to cut it down to length first. Square that line off. You could definitely use a lot of different methods to cut this. I like the 4-inch grinder with the cutting wheel on it. It seems to be pretty fast. You could use a cutting torch if you have one. You could even use a good old-fashioned hacksaw. You're going to be at that a while. You can use a sawzall, but that just chews through blades, and blades are kind of expensive. So I figure this is the best. I can get more out of this. I've already cut 2, and we have to do 5. So this seems to be doing the trick very well. You do need safety glasses because you are going to have sparks going everywhere. And you need to make sure that wherever you're shooting the sparks, it's okay to have sparks going there. So back here, we're just fine. The next cut we need to make is we need to nip a little bit off the angles because that's a beveled cut in there with a round blade. It's obviously not going to take a square corner, so we got to take a little bit of that off. So just nip your corners off. Just make sure you nip the same side and same direction. I'm going to put 3 anchors in this to adhere it to the wall. So we need to make sure we flip it over. And this is the face that's going to be sitting against the wall. This is the face that goes into the wall. So we want to be drilling on this side. So you need to make sure you're paying attention to which direction you're putting that. I'm marking mine at 2 inches in and 1.25 inches down. And we'll make all 3 of those. And this one in the middle, I'm just doing dead center, but the same dimensions, 1.25 inches down. And I am using a special pencil. This is, I think they're called a China marker, and you can mark on like tile and stuff. They work really good for that. But with steel, I feel like pencils kind of get lost, the markings get lost on steel, so I like something colored. So like I talked about in my tool belt review video, I carry this one always, so I have it and we use it. Next, we're ready to start drilling, and I recommend using some sort of a drilling fluid, cutting fluid. It'll just help keep the drill bit cooler longer. I've already broken a bit, so I knew I was being a little too aggressive. So take your time. Start with something small, like maybe 3/16 drill bit or 1/8 drill bit to drill a pilot hole, and then we can use step drills from there on out. Put a little bit of cutting oil on your center spot and go for it. I do, when I'm cutting metal, I keep it on a slower speed. 2's a lot faster, but high RPMs in metal don't really mix very well. So I keep it on the slower speed, higher torque. And you know you're cutting well when you start to see the ribbons come off, not just chunks. Since the screws we're putting in are 5/16, we want to get the hole to at least 3/8 inch. And I'm using this step down drill. These are probably one of the best tools that I've ever used when it comes to drilling. They are very expensive, but they last a long time and they work really, really well. And it allows you to get to multiple dimensions on one drill bit. One caveat though is they're not the best at creating a pilot hole, so I don't like to punch through on them, but I do like to finish off with these drill bits. A little more oil, and I even put a little bit on the drill bit because they do get hot. And go to it. Just like that, we're done. With all of our holes drilled, we can set our lentil in place, and you just want to center it off both sides. I've centered it to my gap on both sides, and I'm ready to start drilling my concrete. I do recommend a concrete drill for this. It makes the life a lot easier. You can get Tapcon screws like I've talked about before, and they do come with a bit that you can use in a regular drill, but you are going to be working at this a long time. So if you have access to a concrete drill or a neighbor who's got one, grab it and use it. You'll appreciate it later on. I like to start with the middle bolt, and I drill this one and anchor it before I drill these two, because that way it won't shift as I'm drilling the other ones, because sometimes it'll make this metal bounce around a little bit. Push that against there solid, and then anchor it. It's good. Now we'll drill the other two sides and anchor those in as well. And our lentil is in place, and now we're ready to frame over top of it and call it good. This will be structurally sound, and I'm happy with it. One thing to make note is if you've had to make the cuts for your egress window on the outside just because the inside of your house is already finished or whatnot, and you have to put a lentil on the outside, you do need to prime it first, because outside in the weather it will get wet on it, it will get condensation, and it will corrode very quickly. On the inside you should be okay. You guys, that is all of the work that you have to do for the prep of the egress window. That's all we're gonna cover in this video today. When I install the windows, I will show you how to do that. Be watching out for that window. It is coming up shortly. Thank you for watching. If you guys want to check out any of the tools I used, I will link them in the description down below. And if you guys like the video, give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you tomorrow. For this task though, although